Hey everybody, it's May. I hope you're doing okay. I'm going to do a VR to Nova Mundi's tag about mass market must-haves for readers. All the best to you, Nova, during these really horrible times, and of course to everyone. Yeah, so readers must-haves, I think Fairlight Tarot mentioned, yes, I'm not saying these are the ones you need to have, these are the ones I need to have. And yeah, mass market picks, and there are 11 prompts. So the first prompt is decks to use for practical, mundane, and earthly matters readings. And when I say readings, I think I'm thinking, for myself and or for others, right? For mundane, earthly matters, something, I think of that as something that kind of comes up in the moment that I want an answer to. I would pick, this is something I would pick, the Smith-Waite Centennial Tarot. This is likely to be in my bag if I'm out and about, even if someone else, at work or elsewhere would ask me for a reading. And I think for these type of readings, I would definitely want a deck that is very familiar to me, that I wouldn't have to ponder over card meetings. This might not be the moment where I want to do a really intuitive reading. I just want a deck that I really know very well, and I think whatever deck that is for you is probably a good point maybe for these type of questions. So yeah, that would be an easy pick for me. Centennial in a tin, any version of Smith-Waite. And I think, okay, maybe this is a weird thing, but I want it to be one that I've shuffled a million times and feels a little bit worn in. And also this one, I had kept a piece of incense in the tin, so it's scented. So I want it to feel like I've handled it a lot, if that makes any sense. The next category is love and relationship readings. A ton of people showed the Goddess of Love Tarot. I don't have that deck, and I've been eyeing it. It looks really intriguing to me, even for general readings. I don't have a deck that's designated, but when I looked through my collection, I saw this one and said, I bet that might work. And I picked the Tarot of the Divine by Yoshitani. And what I did a couple of sample readings where I pulled like full Celtic Cross for questions. I think I did 2. Are they into me, and is this relationship over? And it worked really well. The underlying tales on these cards come from global myth and folklore and fairy tales, and there's a lot of relationship situations involved in those. And whoops, it really worked for love readings. And yeah, I think this is kind of an interesting pick. And I think if someone specifically asked me for that kind of reading, I wouldn't hesitate to pull this one out. It's not a deck I know as well. I've had it since it came out. I've put it in my potential culling pile many times, and I always pull it back, and then I don't use it as much as I think I ought. But yeah, I think that that's an interesting pick to try out. If you have this deck, try it out for something like that. See what you think. Okay, next one is shadow work. I tend to have a lot of shadows come through in most of my regular readings. Part of my practice is every day I kind of do like a guided question, little mini reading with 3 or 4 cards. So I'm kind of always in that space a lot, and I don't designate a deck for it. However, I think this is one people haven't shown yet, the Barbara Walker. I think this is a very kind of a little bit, I would call it like a prodding deck. Like there's a lot of discomfort in this deck, I find. Look at the first one that falls out is the 6 of Cups, called Childhood. Wow. Yeah. If that comes up in a reading, there's a lot to think about. As a matter of fact, there's certain types of readings I wouldn't use this deck for. It can come through a little too dark. This is the Princess of Pentacles. So yeah, I would recommend this one. It's a very interesting deck. You know, at this point, it's kind of historical deck, and Barbara Walker just passed at the end of last year. Really kind of an iconic person. As an oracle, I happen to pull an oracle too that I think is good, which is the Urban Crow. And this is a deck, you know, if you wanted to do some exploration, I think this is an interesting one in terms of the illustration and keywords to do, where you pull an oracle and then pull a few tarot cards to kind of journal, to kind of explore your relationship with warning, your relationship with self-interest, your relationship with teamwork or survival. I think it's a good deck, a good oracle to pair with any kind of more shadowy exploration work that you feel like doing. This deck has been out for several years, I think, and I hadn't really seen it until someone showed it in a tag last year, and I got it last year and I've used it a lot. I really like it. Yeah, so that's the Barbara Walker Tarot in a tin from US Games, and the Urban Crow Oracle, that's the mass market from somebody. Hay House. Okay. Next, prompt number 4 is career and life path. I have 2 decks for this too, because for myself, and this is something I do use the Druidcraft for, is the Druidcraft for me is, if I want to talk to my father, he's been gone for like 10 years. But I feel like when I pull cards from this deck, I hear his voice and what he would advise me. And this is, I have been using this deck to talk to him about, you know, ending my career and going into retirement and all this kind of stuff. And when I say talk to him, I mean, I'm not someone who is telling you that I speak with the dead. I use that more, I guess, metaphorically. Like, I feel his voice come through when I use these cards. So that's what I would use for myself and have been using for myself for like career and life path stuff. If I were doing that for someone else, you know, I could use any of my general decks. I think that, you know, the Smith-Waite, the Centennial that I already showed, I would have no problem using. But I think I would also use something like the Wild Unknown, something kind of objective. Definitely, I think for this, I would go more with this kind of a pip deck and less illustrated, less people and situations. Yeah. And I have to use this at work. It's also one, like, if, you know, if you're working with someone in an office environment, although there are a few that have a little like icky, you know, animal things, you know, you don't have to worry about, you know, nudity or anything. So it's a deck you can use in kind of a work environment. It's safe for work, in other words. So yeah, I would use this for other people, for work, career, and life path stuff. So that's the Wild Unknown. The next prompt, number 5, is healing and emotional recovery. And again, there's so many that would work well here. Because no, I don't think anyone has showed this yet. I went with the Enchanted Tarot by Amy Zerner and Monty Farber. There's been so many editions of this, and it's very confusing to keep them straight, and sometimes they change the name. This was the 25th anniversary edition, and I cut, the cards were like this, they were enormous, so I cut all the borders off. This is such a soft, I mean, it's based on textile tapestries that were made, and it feels like it's a slow tarot for me, because I kind of hastily cut the borders and titles off before I really knew the deck and figured out which cards were which. So I have to slow down with the deck. And there's also the element of the time and craft that was made that was put in to make the images by hand. So overall, it's like kind of like a deep breath, slow down deck for me. And also the guidebook, I really like how it's laid out. So there's, for each card, there's like a dream, which is talking about the image and the story, an awakening, which is a little divination, and then there's like these enchantment sections, which are like small little spells or actions you can take. Like for the death card, I was just reading this yesterday. If you're having trouble dealing with a change that has come into your life, place a bunch of newly cut flowers in a vase. Then over the next 13 days, you watch them wilt and die. And then you release them and bury them in the earth, saying, old flowers, new flowers, release my soul, renew my powers, let go of your pain and walk away. So I think there's some really, you know, nice actions in the readings that you can take or contemplate. And I did use this deck last summer during some difficult times, but there's something that just makes me slow down. I feel and I think too, because the deck has been around a while, I don't know, it seems like it's carrying that kind of energy with it. So yeah, that's something to consider for these kind of healing and emotional recovery readings, is the Enchanted Tarot. The next one, decision making and clarity. This is another one where like my first thought was a pip deck. So I pulled out Squidcake Marseille. Yeah, now if you read pips, I think this is a good one. Again, you're not going to get like a highly, even the people are not highly illustrated. It's just very clean, you know, a person in a chair with a cup, right? It's still kind of soft. But it, you know, Marseille can be pretty straightforward, and I would say this is a nice choice. Squidcake Marseille, that's a nice mass market from Rockpool. And then another option in a more illustrated deck, I think the Crow Tarot too. Again, there's something about it, even though it is definitely fully illustrated, there's something about it being crows that makes it seem, I don't know what it is, as opposed to other animal type decks, this just seems very decisive to me. Like the crows are almost, I don't want to say aggressive, but like the crows are, I guess, like messengers to me in this deck. And there's like someone or something, they have a voice that's telling you something, right? They're like, this is how it is. And so that's my own peculiar reason why I would pick the Crow Tarot for clarity and decision making. That's the Crow Tarot from, like, I think this is Hay House. No, that one was US Games. Okay, that was US Games for the Crow Tarot. Let's see. Okay, the next one, number 6, decision making or not decision making, daily guidance or a daily pull. So here's the thing with me and daily card pulls. Now that I have a lot of decks, what I tend to do is use my daily pulls where I'm going to pull one card from a deck that maybe I don't know very well, or that I just want to only look at one card at a time. I kind of, how do I say this? I could pull a Smith-Waite card and write down blah, 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 the devil, because I try to write a little bit about what I'm seeing in the card. So like, let me just tell you what I've been using this month. So this month I've been using Boadicea's Tarot, which I got last year. I haven't really used it to read with much. However, I'm finding that for a daily card, because the imagery is different than what I'm used to looking at, the suits are renamed too. So that's the King of Pentacles, the Devil. There's a lot of detail. It's digital collage. So when I first pull it, I'm kind of looking at the image and what, you know, the card meaning that I already have in my archive for that Ten of Pentacles or for the Sun card, and kind of just visually exploring how does this card express the meaning I know, and what layers does it add to what I'm carrying in. So that's how I like to use my daily pulls, is kind of for a more exploration of the card. Sometimes I'm going through a period where I'm asking the same question every morning from the single card, where lately one of them has been, how does this card challenge me? How does this card validate me? So yeah, I do tend to use some of the busier decks, the more collage-y, sensory overload decks, or the cards that are just too large to use in a spread, and use those for a daily pull. So if you happen to have picked this one up, mass market, that's a good pick, I think. Boadicea, let me tell you. That's from Schiffer Red Feather. It's a really nicely produced deck, but again, the cards are flipping huge. Okay, beginners, easy to use, but a little extra. So I'm going to go with the Queer Tarot. And again, I think the question here, when you say beginner, that's kind of a big door to open. Who is the beginner? How old are they? What are their interests? You know, who are they? What's important to them? So there's so many good choices. I just happen to own this one, and I think because it's so fun, so colorful, the models are all real people. It's another deck that's safe for work. There is absolutely no bare bodies in this deck, and people, when they see it, tend to say, ooh, what deck is that? And it's really a Smith-Waite clone, so you can use any guidebook with it. And I think it's a great deck for beginners. Now, you know, the guidebook has a queer focus, and, you know, if that's not something that's going to interest your particular beginner, you know, maybe this isn't the right deck, or maybe they get another guidebook. It's still a good guidebook, but, you know, people are weird. Yeah, so I think that's a great pick. The Queer Tarot by Ash and Chess. I don't have the box anymore. Cool backs. Yep. Okay, that was prompt number 8. Prompt number 9, a deck for intuitive free flow readings. So I had to think about that and what makes that work for me. I don't know if I really do like storytelling type readings. I need to look into that a little bit more. I know there's some people that have made great videos about it. For intuitive readings, I think what I need is for the images to kind of be boldly graphic enough that I get an immediate hit. And that takes a few things out of the running that, so for example, Blood Moon Tarot, right? I don't think I could use that for an intuitive reading. It's just, I have to look at it too much. So for intuitive, I need this stuff to hit my eyeballs and go into my brain before I have a chance to start thinking. I think Lubanko would work really well for me for that. But the one I pulled out is the Visionary Woman Tarot that came out from Wiser last year. And yes, this is one that like hits my eyeballs, and I can start piecing the reading together before I really start to think about it, even before I start to kind of question what the cards are. So this is the kind of deck I need for that. And I think out of my collection in mass markets, this is the one that works the best for me. And personally, I really like this deck. I know some people, you know, it's not for everyone. Some people like it. Some people haven't bonded with it. I love, of course, the World card with Rachel Pollack. Sun, Ace of Pentacles, King of Swords, Six of Cups. So this one works really well for me. And, you know, one of these things about any of these reading types or reading in general is to know what works for you. Not necessarily eliminate everything else, but like, you know, for me, I'm starting to understand what works in different lanes for me. And also what are some areas that I'm not good at, but I shouldn't take off the table and, you know, go find out more about, like storytelling readings. That's not a strong point of mine, but I'd like to learn more about it, even if that's not a path I take. Okay, 2 more. Prompt number 10, a deck to bring to parties for an engaging readings. Again, what's the party, right? Is it a corporate Halloween party? Is it a children's event? Is it a rave? You know, all of those things. But I think someone else picked this one too, and I totally agree. And this is the indie version, but it's out in mass market, is the Trionfi della Luna illustrated pips, which now US Games put out. I just adore this deck so much. It is funny, but it's like a very true reader. It's kind of weird. And I think maybe the fact that all the cards are weird makes it so that there's not a particular card that's going to make someone say, oh no. They're all just like a little freaky. There's faces and bellies, there's flames, there's swords, you know, there's flaming flatulence. And yeah, whenever I use this with people, they're kind of engaged by it, and also it just gives really good readings. So I would definitely recommend, if you haven't picked this up, you know, if you had the Deviant Moon and didn't quite get on with it, consider this one. It's a different vibe, and I adore it. Okay, Trionfi della Luna, Patrick Valenza, US Games. The last one is a deck for people who are scared of tarot, a kind of a hug deck. Yeah, I don't have a lot of, you know, I don't have a lot of too fluffy decks. One I thought of is Herb Crafters. People have showed that in various categories. That's a very, I almost put that in the healing and emotional recovery pick. It's a very kind and soft, and it's another tarot where you have to, I think, slow down a little. The one that I ended up choosing is the Radiant Tarot. I forget who published it. I'll put it in the notes. I don't have the box anymore. It's a Pips with Feelings deck. It does have this deck. I love this deck. It reads really well for me. It has some things that I generally are a no-go for me, which is human bodies and animal heads. However, for some reason in this deck, I roll with it. Maybe because they're drawings and not photorealistic, I can handle it. But even the death card, I mean, I think this is a very beautiful death card. But it still carries, you know, the meaning of the death card, right? It's not calling it something else. Let me show you some of the pips. Nicely done pips. And the suits are color coded, so the cups are this kind of coral color, the wands are yellow, the swords are blue, and the pentacles are green. And yeah, I think this is this gives really good readings. Even, you know, the cards are on the upper end of normal size, but if they handle a large spread well, and they really kind of pop out because of the color coding of the elements. And there's no scary images, and I think it's a really clear reader. So I think, yeah, if someone's afraid of anything that's going to confront them in a tarot, you're not going to be confronted by any of the images here. And I think that's it. Yeah, I have watched a lot of people's VRs and enjoyed them all. So thank you, Nova, for starting this one. And again, all the best to you. Take care, everybody.